This is your weekly IUP TV News Bulletin, broadcast from Davis Hall. I'm Brandon Uhalik.
And I'm Taylor Schaefer.
And I'm Peyton Markajon. Today, we will present you some of our best packages that we have produced this semester. Stories about us as students, as well as our professors and members of the community.
One aspect of diversity that people have celebrated is diversity in religion. Our reporter, Jacob Yeomans, visited a few churches in town before Easter to find out how the Indiana community celebrated this holy day.
The sound of church bells across Indiana is a familiar one. Here in Indiana, PA, there are at least 20 different recognized churches. All along Church Street and reaching out into the corners of town, churches celebrate in their own unique way. One of which we're familiar with is the Easter egg hunt. Compared to other holidays, which have one date on the calendar, Easter has a series of events. For many, Easter represents an entire week of celebration, and for others, an entire month. I spoke with Celinda Scott, a local member of an Episcopalian church. She told me a little bit about what Easter means to her.
As far as the service goes, on all the events leading up to Easter and Easter itself, there's a certain pattern. And first you have Lent, and then at the end of, towards the end of Lent, there's Palm Sunday.
Easter tends to be associated with Lent, a 40-day period of fasting, prayer, and sacrifice. But for many people, sacrificing even something small is not easy to do.
I'm giving up coffee this year.
Oh, nice. How's it going?
It's all right. It's kind of hard, tough adjustment, but making the most of it.
Do you usually give up something for Lent?
Not typically, but I've been drinking way too much coffee at work lately, and I kind of need to cut back.
In many religions, Easter is one of the most important holidays. I stopped by the Grace Church in Indiana and found that they had a variety of services offered around Easter.
Now our contemporary service on Sunday morning, it's held in the sanctuary along with our traditional service. Earlier, our band is some young kids, some older. Grace Church is a welcoming place. We really are trying to encourage and spread the love of Jesus to all those who come.
Easter is embedded in our culture, even for those who do not associate with any denomination or church. For some, Easter celebration means being with family. Is there anything that your family does specifically on Easter?
Yeah, I'd say we're Creasters. We go to church on Christmas and Easter. So we go on Easter morning just 'cause my mom likes to get the whole Easter celebration feeling. And then we all get together after and just have a feast.
Clearly, Easter means different things to different people. Every spring, different churches and denominations celebrate Easter differently. In the U.S. alone, there are at least 35 branches of Christianity. Regardless of their differences, everyone is celebrating the same thing.
So that's the joyous part of Easter, that he didn't disappear and die, he lives.
This has been Jake Yeomans for IUP TV News.
All your professors, all of them, they know that all it takes is one dreamer with passion, one person, and they hope in each of you that you might be that one who makes a longer-lasting light bulb, who writes music for the ages, who reaches into the mind and discovers a new star and who can change the world of a fifth grader. We're gathered here to hope in you.
As students, we thought our professors' main activities are teaching. To our surprise, some of our professors have been active, not only in assisting the learning process, but also in writing. From academic journals to pleasure readings, our reporter Peyton Markajon visited a book launching involving faculty members from Women and Gender Studies. Here is her story.
Being a professor requires dedication not only in teaching, but also publishing. This past week, the Women and Gender Studies celebrated the achievement of 3 female professors in publishing their books. Dr. Melanie Holm with her book titled Mockingbird Technologies, Dr. Gloria Park with the book Where Privilege Meets Marginalization, East Asian Women Teachers of English, and Dr. Michelle Sandoff on experiences of Muslims serving in the U.S. military post 9/11. Each book has its uniqueness in the content as well as its connection to the readers.
So the book Mockingbird Technologies is it's an anthology of essays that comes from a conference that was in Toronto in 2013. It was the American Comparative Literature Association conference, and the process of this was a lot of discussion with colleagues, a lot of individual ideas germinating together, and then my co-director, Chris, he and I decided we should make it into a book. And so the process was, for me personally, a very long thought out process about thinking in very complex ways about how representation changes in different geopolitical positions.
Complexity of a selected topic seems to be what motivates Dr. Gloria Park as well. Dr. Park is also a program director for composition and applied linguistics in IUP. Especially looking at her heritage, her experiences influence her interest in her book.
I think that my book has a very in-depth understanding of how issues of privilege that we all experience, whether we're from East Asian or African or other countries, that the issues of privilege is intimately connected to how we experience different marginalized issues. So it's really about, not that I have a lot of privilege and a lot of marginalization, but how those two constructs coexist in the lives of women who happen to teach English as a second or additional language. And that's really the big part of my book.
The process of writing and completing the book is very challenging, from getting an idea, collecting information, to publishing the book.
So the process of doing the research for the book was actually quite challenging. So I came up with this idea. I realized I wanted to research Muslims in the United States. And I had this idea. I was going to a meeting with my advisor to tell him that this was my new idea. And I got off the bus and saw the newspaper headline because that was the day of the Fort Hood shooting. And that obviously had a big impact on both why I thought this research was really important, but it also made it or added to the difficulty of finding respondents because there was a lot of negative coverage going on about Muslims, particularly in the military, at the same time that I was trying to start this project. So I used word of mouth, I did flyers, I sent out emails, I sort of worked all of my personal networks and got all of my friends and colleagues to work their personal networks to find people who'd be willing to talk to me. And ultimately I got 15 people who are willing to sit down, take an hour or two of their time and share their story with me, which I really appreciate. I was actually stuck at 14 for a really long time and was doing an academic presentation about the research I'd done up to that point, and had a member of the audience raise their hand and say, actually, yeah, I got your email, but I had no idea who you were, so I wasn't going to participate. But now that I've seen you, now that I've heard what you're doing with this data, let's sit down and do an interview. And so my 15th interview was actually spur of the moment in a side room at a conference after someone heard me talk about the research and knew that I wasn't trying to distort anything or tell a negative story.
Despite different contents and processes that they went through, each author wished similar things from the readers who read their books.
It's our hope that readers who read our book will come away with a lot of questions rather than answers. The book is meant to be a provocation about how criticism is disseminated and to demystify the authoritative tone of the critic and instead create sort of a playful space for the reader to think through different ideas that aren't necessarily cohesive but that are problematic.
Dr. Botello, the director of Women and Gender Studies, who is also a distinguished university professor, described the effort to support faculties to be active in publication.
In order to motivate this group of faculty, you don't have to do much at all. They are an exceptional group of people already and in their own right.
These women, while in different fields of study, have all achieved something great in publishing books that they hope will have a positive impact on the field of women and gender studies. It is only appropriate that this happens so close to International Women's Day. Reporting for IUP TV, I'm Peyton Markajon.
I fell in love with the campus, with the people, with my IUP life. See it for yourself. Visit us. Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Find your success.
As I look back at the past 4 years at IUP, I realized that there are many opportunities provided for us to learn inside and outside of classrooms, as well as communicating to each other and sharing diverse viewpoints. Some of these talks also included guest speakers from out of town. Our team covered some of these events.
One of the privileges of being in college is having the ability to learn about diverse opinions and to formulate and voice those of your own.
Of the famous Hazelwood School District versus Kuhlmeyer Supreme Court ruling, which directly affects the independence of student media at campuses, high school and college around the country.
Here at IUP, students are welcome to express their opinions both in class and across campus on topics ranging from politics to sexuality to religion. IUP has hosted a variety of on-campus events pertaining to free speech in the last week.
Okay, this is the Islamic Awareness Day, and it's sponsored by the Muslim Student Organization. A lot of people have misconceptions about Islam, about Muslims. There are a lot of Muslim students here on campus, so we want to kind of represent ourselves and introduce ourselves to people and give them the chance to talk to us and ask us questions.
In addition, students are welcome to contribute to the dialogue by bringing different organizations and speakers to campus. With over 1,000 chapters on college campuses across the U.S., Turning Point USA aims to promote the principles of free speech, free market capitalism, and limited government. Charlie Kirk is its founder and executive director. Kirk's visit has invited both praise and criticism from the IUP community. We spoke with Brandon Uhalik, the leader of Turning Point at IUP.
I had a chance to meet him at CPAC, and we got talking, and then next thing you know, I decided to invite him to campus, and he was all for it. He does campus tours every semester. He tries to hit each region, so fortunately for us, he chose to come to IUP, so I think it's an exciting thing, and it's something different from this campus. It's just good to hear a different viewpoint. You know, diversity of thought is very important. You know, you come to college, and you should be able to hear what anyone has to say, because everyone has the right to have their voice be heard on campus.
Turning Point USA operates a professor watch list, which aggregates information on professors who have been reported as espousing radical agendas in the classroom. One can also submit a tip to the site if they know of a professor who is discriminating against their conservative views. Some students were displeased with the presence of the Turning Point CEO on campus. Alara Johnson was amongst those protesting the event.
So the whole professor's watch list, which is created under Turning Point USA, what it does is it puts professors at risk of hate crimes and future, employment, because it destroys their reputation online, and anyone has access to these websites.
However, there are many who disagree with these sentiments.
Free speech is everything, folks. Free speech is not just being able to say what you want to say, but you sometimes have to hear things you don't want to hear. You can exit, you can walk out of the room, you can turn the channel off. That's also what free speech is. It's freedom of movement. You don't have to listen to everything. But by definition of a culture that embraces free speech, which is a majority of Western civilization, you're going to have to be exposed to things that make you uncomfortable.
Over 50 police and security officers were present to ensure the event went uninterrupted. Austin Gibson from the Student Government Association spoke to us about the important role that the First Amendment plays on campus.
They do have the First Amendment right to have people here, just like we have the right to protest. So I feel like to limit somebody's First Amendment would be then in turn limiting our right. So they have a right to have them here. They have a right to, speak what they want to speak. And, we're not always going to agree with that, but, I feel like it's our job to voice that opinion peacefully. You feel like equality is happening and you want to speak that voice, I say run for a position, take on that leadership positions, and try to be a voice for your people and who and stand up for your rights, because that's what you have. You have the right to use the First Amendment just like they do, so use it.
This is Sequoia Van Camp for IUP TV News.
This year, the University Museum offered a great exhibition that involved paintings made by famous painters who grew up in Western Pennsylvania. Emily Luce visited the exhibition, and here's her story.
What do you think when you look at this painting? Or this painting? This style of art is known as folk art, and it is being shown at the University Museum here and at IUP in an exhibit called Memory and Magic, Folk Artists in Western Pennsylvania, showing sculptures and paintings from various artists, such as Earl Deemer, Eunice McCloskey, and even some unknown artists. Rhonda Yeager and Donna Cashdeller are the curators for this exhibit. I sat down and talked with them about why they called it Memory and Magic, and about folk art in general. According to them, they've been wanting to do an exhibit on folk art for many years.
Memory and Magic, the reason we picked that as a title is that folk art kind of deals with those two issues. Memory, you see a lot of the paintings, Richard Cooper's paintings and Eunice McCloskey's paintings kind of record everyday life in Western Pennsylvania at the time they were painting. And in a way, it's also kind of a nostalgic look at life in Western Pennsylvania. It wasn't always as pretty as it appears in those paintings. So that's the memory part. And the magic part is covered by someone like Mary Hamilton, because folk art also deals with myth and culture and spirituality, and magic just kind of encompasses all those issues, we thought. And folk artists in Western Pennsylvania, that's what we're dealing with here. Exactly.
Some of the art has a lot of story behind it. This painting by Linton Park is one of his 13 remaining, after the creamery in which his studio was in burnt down back in 1904. Park is also known as being an inventor and had a very interesting life, according to Yeager.
He worked in the timber industry, we know, for a little while, but we don't know exactly what he did. But of course, this is a memory. This is a memory back in 1885 when they're doing actually flax scutching a bee. But you can see this is a memory of all these people that get together, gather around, have, you know, a big, probably, I don't know, kind of a party, and they're working at the same time, they're partying at the same time, they're eating, they're talking, they're probably doing everything. You can see these people, some of them are all getting crazy, maybe they're dancing a little bit, but you know, it's showing you like what the area looked like in 1885.
Other art was given specifically to the museum by the artists themselves, like the work from Eunice McCloskey, who gave the art back in the 1970s. She also had a lot of connections with the school.
So she's a very, very well-known folk artist and author, and her daughter actually attended IUP. So she has been connected to the IUP community for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So we're very happy to have her work in that community.
One of the artists was even at the museum the day I was there. Richard Cooper was here to discuss his work and talk to those who came by to visit.
Folk art means to me that I have no training. Hopefully I have some ability and some vision and some ideas and some technique, and I just paint, without any training. I just paint from my spirit. That's what folk art means to me.
While much of his work at the museum is from the 70s and 80s, Cooper is still painting and has many plans for his future.
Okay, I have some commissions that I'm working on, and I'm going to still continue to do that. I'm working on a series of pen and ink drawings. I'm doing that, and I'm also making art out of found objects, like my sculptures. So I'm always looking for stuff to put together in the sculptures.
The exhibit has garnered a lot of attention from both students and from the community. The exhibit will be open until March 10th. For more information on the museum, hours, and future exhibits, go to iup.edu/museum. From IUP TV News, this is Emily Luce.
It's hard to explain. It just became home. There are hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes and faculty that really get to know you. Amazing internships and everywhere, programs that help to find a job that is right for you. It's what IUP is about, a commitment to your success. See it for yourself. Visit us, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Find your success.
As we wrap up the semester, not only 3 of us will say goodbye to friends and professors, but also to our dear professor, Dr. Jay Start, who decided to retire. Our reporter Sarah Moltz has her story.
Dr. Jay Start has been living the life as a communications media professor at Indiana University for the past 30 years. Since college, Start knew he always wanted to go into communications media.
I came here from Duquesne University, and I was a comm teacher there in the media arts department at Duquesne University. I was there for 3 years before I came here.
Dr. Start has taught several classes throughout the year, from TV production to music video production, along with also being the faculty advisor for IUP TV and IUP's radio station, WIUP FM. During his tenure, he has seen a lot of changes. However, after so many years working as a communications professor, Dr. Start has decided to finally retire at the end of May.
The students, IUP students, at least comm media students, are, and I always tell people this because so many times the students, not just at IUP, they get bad press. Well, students are nothing but a bunch of drunks stumbling around campus, and that's simply not true. Although you do have your moments, I do like to tell people that you're easily the most honest and nice students that anybody could care to deal with. Really nice. It's been a really good experience.
Throughout the past 30 years, Dr. Start has realized that having children has helped him during his teaching career.
The biggest impact I've had is not necessarily the institution, it's becoming a father. And I have 3 children, and to raise 3 children takes a certain amount of patience and a certain amount of love. I think I bring that to the classroom.
This fall semester, Dr. Start has taken a step back from teaching multiple classes in a single semester to only one, field media productions.
Since you've been here. It's the TV station and I guess the facility has changed since I came here. In some ways it's changed a lot, in some ways it hasn't. When I first came here, I was the advisor to the TV station, much like what Dr. Kleinman does. And part of that role is to lobby for money for equipment.
For some, retirement might be an unclear future, but for Dr. Start, it will guide him in a different path, especially to be active in his local fire department.
But I'm a fire chief, and that's what I'm going to be doing for foreseeable future for the next year or so until I retire from that.
For Dr. Start, retirement is his future path, but for us in communications media, he will be someone who will be dearly missed. Even though Dr. Start is moving on from communications media, his legacy will always remain.
It's been a pleasure for us to share what we have been doing for our class to you in the form of a news bulletin. This is the last week for us to participate on the news team. We thank you for your support.